David, thank you so much for joining us today. We are excited to have you.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be on here and to speak.
Absolutely, man. David, for the audience that does not know David, right? You soon will, but he is the owner and founder of Simple CFO Solutions. And what you guys do is you match real estate investors with a fractional CFO to grow the bottom line profit and to decrease financial stress. And additionally, he is also author of Profit First for Real Estate Investing. David, again, thanks for being here, man.
Yeah, I'm excited. I love sharing the message.
Absolutely. And for those that don't know you, can you maybe give us a little bit of your background, right?
Yeah,
Maybe on the real estate investing and then also how Simple CFO came about?
sure. That is a story and a journey. So I'll give the high level overview and then you can ask me questions from there if you want. But
Perfect.
it was in college. A good friend gave me the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, and that sealed the
Mm.
deal, for me thinking differently the rest of my life. And I bought a property right away. Went out there and bought my first one, fixed it up, and it was an awesome property. Rented it out first, lived in it. It was my first house when I got married. Then I actually lease optioned it when we moved out of there 2 years later. And then the tenant cashed me out 6 months later, and I got tax free, no capital gains tax because I had lived in the property. So this was awesome as my first deal. Then it grew
Wow.
from there. I started investing with another company and like getting on their team, and just that was a good experience because we were at our highest point doing 25 deals a month. So that was a ton of experience. Got to see wholesales, fix and flips, turnkeys, rentals, lease options, land contracts, subject to deals, the whole gamut in real estate. And I got to sit in a lot of different seats like marketing and acquisitions and dispositions and project management, property management, finance, like the whole thing. So that was an awesome experience. I did that for 5 years and saw over 800 deals while I was there, which was a ton of experience. And then from there, moved to the Richmond, Virginia area and did some deals with a good friend there. And literally, like sat down with him and helped rearrange his finances because he, like most investors, it was a mess. And I'm like, what's going on here? And that's kind of what sparked me to start Simple CFO, because a lot of people are doing a lot of deals, but don't know where the money's going. They don't really know what they're making, spending, or keeping. And that was true with the 25 deals a month we were doing. We were like spending 26 deals a month once I
Mm.
finally figured that out, which was not fun. And then also with this guy too, it was like, hey, we don't even know where you stand. Like, where is your money? Where is it going? And trying to just get that. And so then when that all came to be and I was able to actually guide him through to see where his numbers were and where he was, he was able to refinance some of his properties. He was able to cut expenses. He was able to ramp up some of the deal flow that he was doing. And that was just very eye opening to me that, hey, there's probably more people out there, go to these masterminds events type things, and a lot of people beating the chest like, yeah, we did 2 million this year, and then like crying in the bathroom like, yeah, but we spent 2.5. So that's what I saw a lot in the real estate world. And I knew there had to be a better system and a better process for the back end, because everyone's got a great marketing front on the front end. And that's where I read Profit First from a mentor's. They gave me that advice: read Profit First if you're going to start this business, Simple CFO. So I did. I read that, and it was a great system for the finances for entrepreneurs, especially not just for numbers people, but for people that wanted to do the deals and keep more of the money. And that's what I incorporated with Simple CFO as one of the frameworks of the cash flow management. And that's kind of the high level overview, being a real estate investor, doing a lot of deals, to then teaching people like, keep the money. If you're going to make the money, like, don't be doing 25 deals a month and spending 26. So that was kind of the high level journey from real estate investor to owner of Simple CFO, now helping over 100 real estate investors on a monthly basis, have a team of about 30 CFOs on the team, and helping people with the finances and keep more of the profit.
That was some great stuff there, David. And now
Yeah.
let me, you made a great comment how you would help this organization kind of take a different approach of viewing their finances. But like, how does just seeing it in a different way create so much value? A lot of people just focus on what the balance is in my bank account, is what a lot of entrepreneurs do. So
Yeah.
how is what you did, how was that able to allow them to execute to improve the business?
Oh yeah. There's a lot to unpack in everything that I've gone through for sure. The first thing is the guy in Virginia. Let's take that one first.
Yeah.
When he he was always constantly asking, even with managing from the bank account, where's my money? Like, well, I have no idea. Like, I thought I made more, so shouldn't I have more here? And like, where's all my cash going? And we couldn't just open the books. It was just a mess. It was just, I couldn't find where the cash was or anything. They had a bookkeeper that wasn't real estate, investing savvy. So that really hurt him. So once we actually were able to dig all that out and like give him just here, the simple numbers, here's what you made, spent, and kept last month, just those 3 simple numbers. It was revolutionary to him because he's like, okay, I know I need to make this much every month to cover the monthly expenses. And I know these are my expenses that are driving this revenue. And then this is what I'm keeping from it. And I don't like what I'm keeping. So I need to keep more of it. So how do I affect these numbers? And that gave him clarity. Because a lot of people have one big bank account where all the money goes in, all it goes out. And you're exactly right. That's how they manage the entire finances of their business, is that one big bank account. And it doesn't give them any clarity, no confidence to make decisions. Can I take this money out? They feel bad, frustrated, or even guilty for taking money out of their business. Then they're wondering, is this my money? Is this the project or rehab money? Or like, what's in this bank account right now? That's where that guy was. And then we were able to see, okay, let's set up some let's set up some different bank accounts. Let's give every dollar a name. Let's make sure that, hey, we know where your money's going. And for him, he had a small portfolio of properties. Once we knew this is what you were into each property and this is the loans you have against them. Well, guess what? You only have 30% of what the actual value of your portfolio is, like in loans against them. And so 70% equity. You poured a lot of your own money in there. He was able to refinance out and get several $100,000. It's just that clarity and being able to affect the numbers, being able to say, I'm not making enough. We have to make more, or I'm spending too much or not in the right areas, or I need to keep more. Like, I'm constantly stressed out in my business. That was him. He wasn't paying himself. He didn't know what he was making or spending. And then he had no idea, am I keeping enough of it? He just knew I was stressed all the time. So it's giving people that clarity of where their money's going.
Wow. Yeah. There's a lot there, right? Just lack of clarity, right? Lack of control, not being able to kind of see the big picture, right? I don't know if we want to get in the book yet. Did you have one?
Well, I mean, we should maybe talk about what Profit First is in case somebody hasn't.
Perfect. The question I was going to ask you, David, is what is the core message of Profit First for real estate investors?
Well, the core message that I wrote for that book is that you don't have to do more deals to get more profit. You need to take your profit first. So you have to make sure that it's that mindset that we all have. All entrepreneurs have this mindset that revenue solves all problems. But that's at a certain point, that's true. It's if you have a back end system to catch the dollars. Because if you don't, you just constantly drive revenue. They think that, a lot of people do, that $100,000, and if they're making 6 figures, yes, I finally got my business to 6 figures. And when I get to 7 figures, no more problems. And then they're like, that they're going to build their business and revenue is going to save them. Well, guess what? If they have the same habits that they have at 100,000, that's putting them in the rat race. The same thing if they get to $1 million. The person who makes $1 million but spends 1.1 is poorer and less wealthy than the person who makes 500,000 and keeps 250. Or even 100,000, makes 100,000 and keeps 50 of it, or whatever. That's where the Profit First core message is, making sure you actually have profit at the end of the day, that you have profit and that you put it first as well. So you don't just have it at the end of the year, but you have it from every deal, every month, every week, making sure that profit is the priority, which it sounds baffling, right? For for-profit companies to have to say this but a lot of people have complexes. A lot of people were told middle-class mindsets in their past, like, we don't have enough, or we can't afford that, or it's bad to make money, or whatever, the limiting beliefs they have around money. But then they need someone to come in and say, you started a business. The purpose of the business is to make a profit. Your purpose might be different. Your purpose might be to save orphans and build orphanages, or do something very noble, or to buy huge cars and like the jet planes, or whatever it is that you want from your business. But the purpose of the business is to make money. So that's where we have to make sure that there's a system in place to do that. That's where a lot of people, and even in the book, we talk about this, that we get this mindset from everyone, from other entrepreneurs, that it's sales minus expenses equals profit, which sounds reasonable. I make a sale, I pay everyone else and their mother, and hopefully I have some profit at the end of the day. That's where a lot of people live, in the land of hoping. I hope I make profit, and I pray there's some left over for me to actually have some fun with. They build their whole business around the hope and pray plan, which is just a load of garbage, because then they hope and pray. And then guess what? At the end of the year, they have nothing. Like the guy in 2019 who came to me and said, I've done more deals than I've ever done before in my life and lost more money than I've ever lost before. That's where people go if they go down that rabbit hole. If they say that I'm just going to put expenses first, I'm never going to think about the business. But the profit first message is sales minus profit equals expenses, meaning I make a sale, I take my profit off the table, then I grow the business from what's left over to make sure that I'm healthy, the business is healthy, that I'm growing this thing without without growing the cancer. Like if I have cancerous habits in here, I don't want to kill my business and make the tumor bigger. I want to make sure the right things are getting bigger and better. So that's where profit first, that mindset comes into play. And then there's practical steps. That's what I believe separates the profit first mentality and that message then like Rich Dad Poor Dad, because he says, pay yourself first. And then what's the richest man in Babylon? A portion of all I have is mine to keep. Like that message is out there for sure. But I like profit first because it says, here's a system as well. It's not just a crazy formula where you switch a couple of the words and now don't you get it? It's like, well, no, here's an actual system to make sure that you get it, that you actually have more dollars at the end of the day than you did when you started. So that's where I could go into the back end, but I've been talking for a while. So that's really the mindset around it. But then there's also a practical system to back it up to make sure you have actual more profit too.
David, no, I'm going to ask you to go into it because I can appreciate what you're saying, right? First thing that we got to attack is the mindset, right? Make sure we're focused. And then we have to have some actionable steps to kind of put into place. So, right, everybody's read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, right? If you haven't read Richest Man in Babylon, go get it. It's a great book.
That's a great one.
That was probably the first one that I was introduced to kind of this mindset that, hey, right, most people end up taking home whatever's left over. Is you got to put yourself first because you're the one that makes this whole thing work. I appreciate both of those books, and I appreciate your approach in this book to saying, hey, here's the actionable steps. So, David, if you can, I'm going to tee up again. Man, what are some of these actionable steps that somebody can do to kind of take control of their finances here?
So the first one, I'm going to give you two major ones and then something to do with the money on a consistent basis. But the number one thing that I would say is you need to find what you need to keep from your business. So I like to give the framework of you need to know what you make, spend, and keep. A lot of entrepreneurs don't know those numbers, those simple numbers. What did I make last month? How much did I spend? And did I keep any of it? So that's where we have to know those numbers. And the first thing I would get is, what do I need from my business? What do I need to keep? Because let me tell you a quick story. Since we're doing this live, I actually have a pen here. And even if you're listening to the thing, I'm holding a pen in my hand right now. That's where a lot of people, when they're born, or everyone, when they're born, is born with a pen in their hands. And I take this story from Crucial Conversation, so I can't take credit for it, but it's a great story that illustrates this point. But in that book, they say everyone's born with their pen in their hand. Your pen is your self-worth. When you're born and 0 to 5, you're usually holding that pen and you don't care what anyone thinks. You are just authoring your story and you're bouncing off the walls. Ask my little 6-year-old daughter, just like living life as large as possible. You don't care. But then you get a little bit older. She's going to go into junior high and high school. She's going to face the peer pressure. There's going to be what are they wearing? How are they acting? What are they deciding? How do I fit in? How am I accepted? And then that's giving up your pen to them. You give up your pen in that junior high, usually high school age, and you say, I want you to write my story for me. And then you wonder, why do I feel crappy all the time?
Reconnect. David, sorry about that, but we lost you right there at why does Anthony feel crappy all the time? You can pick it up from there. That'd be great.
Awesome. So that's where a lot of people feel crappy when they are in the high school, junior high, because they're letting everyone else write their story. But then you get to be you listen to this podcast, you're probably different. If you're an entrepreneur, you've started your business or you want to start your business, that's where you're taking your pen back again. And you say, I don't care what other people think. I'm going to start my business. I'm going to be different. I'm going to invest differently. I'm going to think differently about my money, or I'm going to become a business owner. Then you start authoring, your story again. But then you listen to a podcast where a guy says, oh, we were doing 25 deals a month and like 800 deals, and like, I need to be doing that, or I need to be doing 5 million a year or whatever, then you give up your pen again. That's really easy to do in the real estate investing world. Hear what everyone else is doing and compare yourself and say, I need to do that. That's where one of the guys that we worked with at first that I told, even mentioned his story briefly, in 2019, he lost more than he's ever lost because he was trying to scale and grow. And he did it in a form and fashion that was burning him out, 80, 100-hour weeks. His wife was working in the business. She was stressed out. She started having seizures. It's like he was doing the scaling for all the wrong reasons because other people were authoring his story. That's where the first thing you need from your business is to know what you need from the business. So you need to sit down and say, this is what I need to keep. Because for him, he thought he needed to do 2 to 3 deals a month. And he sat down and said, with the profitability of my average deal, I only have to do 5 deals a year. And he was trying to do 20 to 30 deals a year. And it's like, you don't have to be killing yourself for where you are right now. That's where you have to make sure, what do I need from the business versus I hope I have profit and I pray there's some left over at the end of the year that I could spend. That's where this is the difference. This is now building it around what I need to keep. There are simple things to ask yourself. Okay, this is how much I'm bringing in now. This is how much I need to bring from the business. This is the percent of what my business is currently bringing in versus what I need to, and I need to make it up somehow, whether it's by more deals or whether it's like, okay, I still need to keep my W-2 job until I'm at this certain point. But you need to give yourself that first point of, I need to know what I need to keep from my business. That'd be the big first one. Because you need to take your pen back and you need to make sure your business is not controlling you and writing your story for you, and you feel crappy all over again and you wonder why. Because that's where a lot of people get into their own rat race. Like you try and exit your W-2 job and get into real estate investing, and then you realize, like, shoot, I woke up and I'm in a bigger rat race. Like now I'm living, instead of paycheck to paycheck, I'm living deal to deal. So it's like, what the heck? You need to author your terms again. You need to know what you need to keep from your business. So the first thing, find that keep number. If you have a spouse, sit down with him or her and say, what do we need to bring in? Like, get the people that are important to you on the same page with your money. That goes a very, very long way. Not just with your marriage, if you have a spouse, but also with your clarity, your mental focus in the business. What do I need to drive for at first? So that's the first thing. The second point is the actual system. Okay, now I know what I need to keep. I have that North Star. What do I do in order to know how much I make, spend, and keep? What can I put in place? And what I love about Profit First, we already talked about, if you have the one big bank account, you're probably going crazy. You don't have clarity. You have no idea if you can take money out, or if you can, if you can take anything, or if you can spend it or whatever. That's where Profit First is like the envelope system for business. So Dave Ramsey's made that very popular. He's not very popular amongst, I'm sure, the infinite wealth consultants or especially real estate investors, but there's some good principles that he talks about just in finances, and a lot of other people. Like, he wasn't the one to create that system. That system's been around for a long time, but the concept of give every dollar in your business a name. As it comes in, you need to know what it's for. Not something where you're like, oh, I've got this money in there, this is what I'm going to spend. No, before you've even spent it or put it somewhere, you're giving it a name. So what do I mean by that? You set up physical bank accounts and name them different things to make you focus on what's important to your business. The first 3 bank accounts I would set up is the Golden Trio. I love that, the Golden Trio, because I love big epic sagas like Star Wars, Harry Potter. I mean, I get my stereotype. I take my stereotype as far as possible. So I get it. So I love those big epic sagas. So like, you've got Harry, Ron, Hermione, right? Or Luke, Han, Leia. Always the 3 main heroes, always making sure the story we were talking about, because it's Cameron, right?
Yeah, whatever. Just call him the guy with the good hair.
I was going to say, we were talking about Full House. You've got Jesse, which Cameron looks like with his hair, looks great, and then you've got Danny Tanner and Joe. You've always got the 3 main heroes in these big stories, making sure that good wins in the end. That, that the girls learn what they need to learn, or that in Harry Potter, that Voldemort is defeated. Your business is your epic saga. So you need to make sure that you have 3 main accounts, these Golden Trio of accounts, to make sure that you're going to win. And that, how do you win in business? Making sure it's profitable. So the first 3 deal with making sure that you have an actual profitable business. The first 3 accounts, number 1, profit. Very simple, right? There we go. Number 2, owner's compensation or owner's comp. And number 3, owner's tax. The owner's comp is my favorite account. I'm going to go through all 3 of them, but the owner's comp is my favorite because that's the get out of the rat race account. That account should be the fulfillment of number 1. We talked about what do we need to keep from our business. Find that number on a monthly basis. What do I need to keep? Then the owner's comp bank account is to be filled up with at least that keep number every single month. So that way you can either exit your W-2 or build a buffer in there and say, hey, I've got 3-6 months of my own pay. I won't have to worry if the market changes or if the deal doesn't close. But then profit is icing on the cake. Every quarter I would take some out of there and celebrate. So that way you feel like, hey, this is worth it. Now I can fulfill more of what my life's purpose is and use this money and direct it how I want instead of the money jerking me around. Then you've got the third one, owner's tax, making sure that the IRS is not slapping you upside the face when it's tax time and you have the tax money there sitting to make sure that you don't have to do, hey, it's tax time. I got to do 4 more deals right now before, so that way I can fund my taxes. It's making sure you have that. So those are the 3 accounts to set up first. If you set those ones up, you'll be so light years ahead of other real estate investors because you'll actually be giving those dollars a name and be profitable and just get into the habits. And if you're like, I'm not profitable right now, start with a low percentage. Start with 1% in those accounts. Start where you can so that way you can build the habit muscle of being profitable. There are other fundamental accounts for real estate. So buckle up and then I'll give you one action item from number 2 that'll make it real simple. I would set up an income account or deposits. You can name it either one. It's where all the money comes in and just sits. So instead of it coming in and out of one big account like that, the operational expenses or whatever, now you've got one big account where it all sits, but then you transfer it out to the other accounts. So it's helping you get control and then give every dollar a name. You still have OPEX though. So you can transfer it from income to OPEX where it's the operational expenses. So you're still going to have the outflow of money. That one's going to be more of the bad guy of your business, the ones that's the one to know how much you're spending. There is a 6 account that I did for Profit First for real estate investing, OPM, because a lot of people get loans from other people like private lenders or hard money lenders or, institutional financing and you might get the money before, you actually need it, before all the draws. Not everyone does a draw. Some private lenders actually fund the whole deal. And then that's dangerous to the person where you have one big bank account and it's all sitting in there because then you use that money and you get yourself in a Ponzi scheme. So use the OPM account so you don't touch the money in there except for rehabs or the projects. So that way that gives every dollar a name. And those are good fundamental accounts. And if you're like, David, you just told me to open up 6 bank accounts. Can you at least do one from this podcast? So can you open up a profit account and transfer 1%? Open up a business checking, transfer 1% of everything that you bring in, and start living on less than you're making. There you go. Novel idea, right? So it's that's where number 1 and number 2, the knockout punch. Know what you need to keep. That gives you a good goal to start. And then number 2, we need to make sure we're setting up the system to be profitable, to give ourselves that as much chance for success as possible. So now it's a plan versus the hope and pray plan. Now it's an actual plan of this is what I need to keep. This is how I'm going to keep it. I'm going to make sure it's going here. Then what do I do with the money from there? Every week, I would make sure I transfer it by Friday. So if you have money come in during the month or if you have whenever, if you sell one deal a quarter, I don't care. Just making sure whenever those deals close that by Friday, you're transferring it out of there into the other accounts from income to the other main accounts. On a monthly basis, I would review your money. So every week, I would make sure you transfer it and move it. Every month, I would review it. And what do I review? Review what you made, spent, and kept right from the bank accounts. You could do that now. In income, you can see what came in. OPEX, you can see what goes out. And then from that golden trio, the profit, owner's comp, and owner's tax, you can see what you've kept. Have you kept any this last month? Did you keep enough of it? So that way you can very clearly see where your money's going. And then every quarter, I would take some money from the profit, up to 50% out of there, and celebrate. Do what you want with it. Some people that we're working with right now, they buy the cars or they go on vacation. Some people are given to camps for kids to make sure that, or whatever. Some people are actually building orphanages. That profit account is for you. And some people are paying down debt. Whatever it is for you that you want to do with that profit account, that's what it's really for. So that's the system. The system is know what I need to keep, set up the bank accounts, give every dollar a name, and then move the money. make sure the money is in motion. Make sure you're moving it to the proper accounts, you're reviewing it, and then taking the profit and doing what you really want to do. That is the crux of the profit first system. And if you just take those 2 simple points, know what you need to keep, and set up at least one account, you'll be well on your way to. I was interviewed like this before, and the guy said because he interviewed me a couple times, he said, I set up a profit account, the one, like you said, I made it real simple. Like I didn't even go all out. And he said it was 6 months later, and I had like 6 figures in that account that I had forgotten about. I'm like, I wish I could open that up and forget about 6 figures. But that's where you have to make sure that you have a system for this, because you don't know what the compound effect is going to be. That same guy that I told you that had done more deals than he's ever done and lost more than he's ever lost, this year, 3 years later, he filled up all his bank accounts in June. Like his profit account, his owner's comp account, like he wouldn't have had to work the rest of the year if he didn't want to. He kept working, of course, but he was able to spend 3 weeks on the road with his kids in an RV. He was the one where he was able to, he lost $70,000 in 2019. He was able to give $70,000 this year out of his giving account to others. So it's like, this is the compound effect of having a system in place and knowing where every dollar is going, and then being able to watch that money grow and then do what you actually want to do with that money. So there you go. I know that was a lot, but that's the crux of the system.
I think we're both kind of trying to get in there.
Yeah, I got one for you. I'm always
bring it
looking for
on.
I'm always looking for the easy way out, right? So let's be honest here. Is
Sure.
part of that going in there and allocating these dollars to different accounts? Can you automate that in any way?
There's several online banks that do that. The one that's off the top of my head, North One Bank, is an online bank that does that. I've used them in the past. They've gotten a lot better since when I first started them a couple of years ago. But you can literally set up one main bank account as the income account where it all comes in, and then designate percentages underneath that, and it'll push the money, to the other accounts from the income account. So I do like that one. Then there are some other online banks that do that. I just don't know them off the top of my head, but there's been several of my friends that are like, yeah, we opened this one, and it does that automatic transfer, like with percentages that I set up.
I want to. Joshua just made a comment. Great information. And so we are streaming this live. So if you have any comments or questions, now's the time to go ahead and put them in the chat. David, I can tell you're passionate about that, and it's just great to see that passion coming over. And I wanted to make a couple points on, you had all those different accounts. And you expand on them more in the book. And I think what is great about this book is that there's tactical things. It's walking you through how to come up with these percentages and kind of how to execute, right? I mean, we love Rich Dad, Poor Dad, but that's more in really kind of getting your mindset kind of open. You got to read some other books in order to execute. But in looking in the book, you expanded more on some of the advantages of having these other accounts. And one, in regards to the owner's comp account, one thing you had talked about is when you see how much money's going through there, that can tell you when it's time to hire somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yep.
So, because a lot of times there's that question, I want to hire an assistant or expand my team, but I don't know if I can afford it. That's what this account is doing, is having these in different accounts. It's allowing you look at your phone and you can see where the balances are. You don't have to talk to your CPA or your bookkeeper or your CFO. You can just pull that up and allow you to make better decisions. And also in regards to the profit account, oftentimes people we have a little scarcity mindset.
Mm-hmm.
I've made this money, but I don't want to enjoy it because I might need it here or I might need it. And then they end up, they're never satisfied, right? Because we don't know how much is enough, but this is kind of help answering that. And so the person on there had talked about how she was able to take the profits out without any guilt.
Yeah.
And she knew that it wasn't going to hinder the business because she had all of her ducks in a row.
Yep.
That was good.
Yeah. David, what's I think I know the answer, but what size of business does somebody need to begin implementing these strategies?
The earlier, the better. So I don't care where you are. If you're at deal 0 or deal 1,000, you can implement the system. If you're at deal 0, you kind of have a leg up because
Yeah.
you can build good habits from day one and from deal one. So that's awesome because then you could be profitable from every single deal that you ever do. Even the ones where you lose money, you still know that, hey, I can handle this, because we've got the money in place. If you're at deal 1,000 and you're like, I'm not profitable right now, how do I set this up? Like this whole system. That's one of the other questions I get all the time is like, I'm not
Yeah.
profitable right now. How can I do this? That's why you need something. Do you want to keep not being profitable? Because obviously the choices that you're making up to this point have not been conducive to profitability. So making sure that you have a system that sets up, okay, from every deal right now, just 1%. Well, like I was saying, so if you're even down the road and you're like, oh, shoot, I've definitely screwed it all up. No, you haven't. You just now need to build better habits wherever you are. Stop living in that deal to deal cycle. So that's where I don't care where you are in the business. This is a really efficient and a productive system for people that want to keep more of the profit no matter where they are, deal 0 or, like I said, deal 1,000.
Now, a lot of people start, with one property, and then the
Yeah.
goal is to expand, to 10 or to 20. So do we need like 6 accounts per property, or
No.
how do you? Okay.
No, I would, if you've got rentals, I would set up the system for your rentals. If you have fix and flips or active income, wholesale or whatever, I would set another 6 accounts or whatever for
Yeah.
those. It's like for the major functions of your business. So if you're doing buy and hold and the active selling of it, then give yourself clarity on both businesses. But you don't need accounts for each individual property. And when you first start, if you're at the onesie twosie right now, you're not going to be able to pay yourself probably enough on a monthly basis. So, like especially if it's rentals and you're cash flowing $300 a month or whatever. So you have to make sure, okay, what are my benchmarks? When could I retire, from my W-2 job and just live off my rentals? How many rentals is that? How much of that 300 can I put into the owner's comp bucket and still have, some for the repairs, maintenance, and the vacancy turnover and all the other stuff that comes with rentals. So it's just giving yourself good goals when you set these, accounts up and the system up. Then yeah, don't set it up for every property, because if you're going to scale it all, that's going to be a nightmare if you set up 6 accounts per property.
Real estate's got a big umbrella, right? You touched on a
Yep.
couple of those, right? Long-term rentals and those things.
Yeah.
Are there strategies that you can implement, maybe based on long-term rentals, syndications, wholesaling, something like that?
Like different strategies for the system. The system, what I love about it is for the fundamentals of it work for any business, and you don't have to change it much. The things that change are the potential bank accounts that you set up and the
Mhm.
percentages. So yes, like even in the book, I give different percentages if you're buying, holding versus actively trying to sell a property. So that's where those can be different, but the core principles are the same. What we're really trying to do here is what I hinted to a while ago, is not spending every single dollar that you're making and making sure you actually have some for yourself, which covers any business. Making sure, I don't care if it's syndications, if it's, single family, if it's the buy and hold or whatever. So the core principles stay the same. It's just the little tweaks. And that's why I even wrote A Profit First for Real Estate Investing, is that there was enough tweaking to do from Mike Michalowicz's original book, for the real estate investing world. So same concept there too.
Awesome, David. Where can somebody find you, right? If somebody's listening and they
Yeah.
love what you're sharing here and they want to try to implement some of this stuff, where can they find you?
simplecfo.com. So simple CFO, like chieffinancialofficer.com. That's a one-stop shop. You can schedule a call with our team. We handhold you through this process and hold you accountable to making more money and keeping more of it. That's really what we're doing. We're like financial coaches slash, consultants and fractional CFOs to lead the financial department. Then we also have the book there, our podcast, If You Need Hope, where if you're like, oh shoot, I'm spending way more than I'm making. There's been a lot of people that we've interviewed that have been in that position, and then Profit First has helped them dig themselves out of that hole and get to a better place. So if you need some hope, you can go there as well too, right there at that link, simplecfo.com.
Awesome. And David, we spoke a little bit beforehand, right? You're
Yeah.
familiar with kind of the basics of what we do, right? Infinite banking.
Yeah.
If you wouldn't mind, man, tell us a little bit about your history of it and maybe your take on it.
For us, it pairs very well with Profit First because literally your policies can be like other bank accounts. So instead of setting up a bank account, you might want to set up a policy and have that be one of your core foundational ones. Usually we do that with our people we work with. That's their reserve account. That's the one where they might not need right now, but if it gets to a bad time, they're
Ooh.
setting that up and then, okay, here you go. Now we've got an efficient system. We're going to be able to take the cash value, but we're also going to be building long-term wealth and being able to use that money as we need to. So like we set that up. And then also like if they want to buy their own investments and use their own money, that's usually another, policy that they set up as well too. But that's where I love the infinite banking and Profit First, because I feel like Profit First gets your mindset and then habits right. And then once you know how to handle money better, you can also turbocharge it with infinite banking and have a more efficient vehicle for your money to actually flow through than just a bank account. So I'm like, usually when I'm teaching people, I'm keeping it as high level as possible on the Profit First side, but we can go very deep into like, okay, you've got this system down. Let's teach some more other concepts as well too, like infinite banking, and making sure that you can have as much money as possible available to you and as efficient as possible as well too, and making sure you're getting all the benefits and learning everything you can about how to manage money and how, because like I said before, it doesn't matter if you're making $1 million if you're spending 1.1. Like we have to know what are the most efficient vehicles, what are the best ways to be able to have that profit at the end of the day. So I think infinite banking and Profit First marry very well.
Well said. And the author of Becoming Your Own Banker, Nelson Nash, he's famous for saying it's not what you make, but it's what you keep.
Yep.
And David, well done, man. Really appreciate you coming on today and sharing our information with our listeners. And we'll make sure that we have that link to your website here in the show notes to wrap this thing up.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. Appreciate you having me on.
Thanks, David, and go make it a fantastic day.
Thank you.
Take care.